Hey, what's up, Masters? Welcome to another episode of Path to Mastery for Real Estate. And today we are with Mr. Andre Norman. Andre, what's going on, man?
Oh man, taking it easy, man. Good to be with you. How's life on your side?
I can't complain, man. It's a little rainy out today, but other than that, life's good, my friend.
Rain is good. It waters
Yeah,
the earth.
yeah. In the lawn, certainly. Well, I don't know if the lawn needs it now. It did in the spring, though. But listen, thanks for jumping on. You know, it's funny. I was on with I had Ben Hardy on my podcast, Benjamin Hardy, and we talked about his book, Personality Isn't Permanent, and you had come up in our conversation. I didn't even know who you were, and then he talked about you being chapter 2 of his book, and then when he shared your story, I'm like, holy cow, like that is very close to my story as well. And then Ben said, hey, you know what, you should have Andre on, and here we are, man. So thanks for doing this.
No problem. No problem.
Yeah. So
What?
just a little bit about you, and then we want to hear from you. Obviously, is you're a you believe in second chances, right? Your reason is your tenacity and passion for people led you to start a transformational program called 180X. Right. You work with redevelopment in underserved communities, repairing families in crisis, and also reducing prison reentry. That wasn't always your calling, right? 2 decades ago, you were actually serving a 100-year prison service sentence.
Yeah, that was me.
Yep. And you also were running the gang activity in the facility. So we'll
Somebody
talk
had to,
about
right?
somebody had to. It's interesting too. When Ben talked about that in the context of that was the goal. You know, when you set really high goals, but sometimes we're setting goals that are bringing us in the wrong direction. You know.
Well, the goal is going to take you to where it takes you. So if your goal is to be a specific thing, it'll take you in that space.
Hmm. And then you had an epiphany, and you were in solitary confinement. I mean, I can't even imagine all this, man. How long were you in prison? 14 years?
14. I ended up doing 14 total.
Wow, wow. And you spent a couple years in solitary confinement, right?
Two and a half. Locked
Two
in a
and a half.
basement.
Wow, wow. So we can talk about that, but you obviously learned a lot, man. Since getting out, your mission has been to teach individuals and corporations how to turn any situation around. And I think that's a perfect name for this episode. Title for this episode is How to Turn Any Situation Around. Now you work with individuals, corporations. You also work with Genius Recovery, right? That's part of the Genius Network, and you have impacted regions including Honduras, Bahamas, Sweden, Guatemala, Libya, Trinidad. You've lectured on multiple TEDx stages, as well as Harvard University, London School of Business. Man, you've just done a lot of really cool things. Did you? You also graduated from Harvard, right? Is
I
that
went to Boston College. I have a
Boston
fellowship
College?
at Harvard Law School.
Okay, good for you, man. And yeah, it's awesome, man. An inspiration to me. I got in trouble when I was a kid, real angry kid. The only way I knew how to express myself was to fight. I didn't know how to communicate, and I'm lucky I didn't end up doing 14 years in prison, to be honest with you. But I can relate to a lot of your stories. So again, I appreciate you being with us today. And you're doing a lot now. I want to bring you back though to those days, man. If when you read the book's called Personality Isn't Permanent. You talk about a time where you were in I don't know if you were in solitary confinement, but your goal was you thought you were about number 3 on the hierarchy in the prison, and you wanted to be the number 1 guy, and you were going to achieve that goal by going out and killing a bunch of people.
That's how it works.
Yeah. So talk to us about that. How do you get from that to just changing that, and then where we are today?
It's as simple as the number one status is like boxing. You're the number one boxer in the world because you might come in when Muhammad Ali started or Mike Tyson started. They were just nobodies. They were maybe Olympic champions. When you come into boxing with 0-0 record, you're nobody. And there's a
Hmm.
heavyweight champ. And you just fight your way to the top. You got to fight people better than you, with bigger names than you, with more wins than you, with reputations. And you just keep fighting your way to the top. And you could actually become champion, but if you don't fight the right person, he might have lost the belt. Say Muhammad Ali lost the belt and you beat some lame. So when Evander Holyfield finally beat Buster Douglas, nobody counted him as a champion until he beat Mike Tyson. So there is that perception of pound for pound, the perception, the attitude, who you are, and you fight your way to the top until you're ranked as pound for pound, one of the best fighters. And in prison is pound for pound, I'm saying one of the best gang members, like somebody that's gonna really, really go hard and fight and not quit. And he's taking on, what's his resume look like? Who has he beaten in the past? It's all about that. It's about the resume that makes up your record. There are people who've won championship belts that really didn't fight anybody or fought in a bad era. So it's like, you don't count. So people discredit Bill Russell because he played in the 60s. And his 11 rings, they say, are counterfeit because he didn't play against a Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or LeBron James. He played against the same 6 people all the time. But that's if you want to look at it like that. I think Bill Russell is one of the greatest winners of all time. I'm saying if you can win that many years, you're just a winner. But some people say, oh, nah, his competition was low. And, and that's the argument for some people. So I went through this scenario where I wanted to be the number one guy. I fought everybody online ahead of me. When I finally got to the point of this scenario will propel me to the number one person, I realized that I was a king of nowhere. And I was about to become like the ultimate king of nowhere. Nobody cared that I was like the boss of this prison on some side street nobody ever heard of. Nobody cared about anything that I was doing in that place. But in my mind, I had convinced myself that I was winning. In my mind, I convinced myself that this prison wasn't really a prison, but it was my castle. And I made all this stuff up in my head so I could live in this space. And when it clashed with reality, finally, I said, this is the dumbest shit ever. And I really sat down and I said, well, do I really want to be that person? Do I really want to be the king of nowhere? And that's when I said, no. I started asking myself some really hard questions. Well, Andre, what are you doing? What are you really about to become? And who are you? And I started telling myself the truth about who I was, because I lied about who I was to myself for years. And I just negated the truth of being poor, being Black, being incarcerated, being a convicted criminal, not being able to read well, having addiction in my family, having all kinds of trauma in my family, having my mom go through domestic violence, not being a high school dropout. I took being socially awkward. I took all that stuff and I just shoved it under the rug someplace. And I just created this new person. Then finally I said, let me go and lift up this rug and say, who is this? This is me. I'm the kid who doesn't fit in well. I'm the kid who doesn't read well. I'm the guy who's doing 100 years. I just told myself the truth. And I said, okay, that was kind of daunting. I said, well, what do you really want? If this fictitious fantasy isn't what you want, what do you really want? And I couldn't really come up with anything concrete because I didn't have the environment or the history. So I said, I want to be successful. And I said that because I deduce successful people don't come to prison. I said, if I can be successful, minimally, I won't ever have to live here again. And that was my goal. So I reverse engineered. Okay, so how do people become successful? Where do they come from? I said, universities. I said, I'll go home and go to Harvard and I'll be successful. And it was really that simple in my mind that successful people come from Harvard. I go to Harvard and I have to be successful. And people started telling me I couldn't do it because I was Black. I couldn't do it because I was a criminal. I couldn't do it because my parents were poor. I couldn't do it because I was a high school dropout. I'm like, no, I mean, all those things can change. My circumstance can change. My environment can change once I change my direction. And that's what I did.
So I'm going to go back a little bit. So you had mentioned, you said, I wrote some notes here. You said you realized it was the dumbest shit ever that you were doing. How did you realize that in a moment? And the reason I'm asking, because I'm guessing there's a lot of people listening here that they may have a goal right now and they're not even sure why they have that goal, or is it the dumbest goal in the world? They're just not even thinking about it, right? Like, how did you know?
The journey is where we get stuck. We go broke, we go financially bust, we tap out, we jump out a window en route to the goal. Very rarely do you actually reach the dumbass goal. You're just like, you spend 10, 20 years trying to build a shopping mall and don't know nothing about it, but it's the thing that keeps you going. So
Yeah.
the thing that kept me going, generally people don't reach it. You dream it. But I actually got to the cusp of actually achieving it. It's like the Wizard of Oz. Dorothy's on this long road with her little troop of people to go get saved by the wizard. And when they finally made it to the wizard, they pulled the curtain back, and it's some bullshit. It's nothing real. But everybody in Oz thought the wizard was real. Everybody in the wizard's chambers thought the wizard was real. And it wasn't until Toto pulled the curtain that they said, this isn't real. So think about it. Everybody in Oz was happy living in Oz, and under the pretense that there's a wizard. So a lot of people who have companies and goals and dreams, they think that this whole thing is real, and it's not. They're living in someone else's fantasy, and they're just playing a part in the whole Wizard of Oz thing, and the wizard was fake, which makes everything fake. So being the toughest guy in prison was fake, which meant the entire thing was fake. And when I got to that point, I was like, wow, I wasted all of my time, all of my energy, turned the back on my family for this. It's like the guy that sits in the bar all night and burns up 6 hours or 5-6 hours a night. And he's wondering why he doesn't have enough time to get his stuff done. Well, you're burning 5 hours up a night sitting in the bar. If you're drinking too much or not, you're spending too many hours in the bar. You're spending too many hours on the phone. You're spending too many hours video gaming, too many hours golfing. What is the thing that you want to achieve? And are you putting the time to that? So for me, I just got to that point and it was like, wow, I pulled the curtain back and I saw it. I had two choices. I could make believe and just go with the flow, or I could say, this is the dumbest shit ever, and I don't want to be here anymore.
And you were lucky that you were able to do that in the moment, because if you had done what you were planning on doing, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
How many people are married and don't get along with their spouse for the last 5 years? How many people go to work every day and hate their jobs? How many people have business partners that make them just cringe? You go to the office, you see that person and you cringe. I don't cringe in my own office, dude. This is my office. If I'm cringing when I see you, you need to go. Whatever you do, you can do it someplace else. And whoever's going to replace you shouldn't make me cringe in my own office. Some of us go to our companies and be like, yo, I can't. They see Sam, they do this. They duck. You shouldn't be ducking in your own environment. That person's out of place, not you. But you let them be because you got a contract or they serve a greater goal. Nah, my life is better when I got people around me that I love and I like being around.
Yeah, I love that. Amen. I'm getting a lot more involved in the Genius Network, which I know you're very much involved in, and we can talk a little bit about that. But I know that's something that they talk a lot about, is the people around you, and also the people that you don't let around you is even more important, right? Or
this saying about Genius Network, the fee to join Genius isn't about who's in the room. It's about who's not in the room. Because the person who's not serious about business, not serious about growth, not serious about personal development, is not going to write a $25,000 check. All the conversation ends right there. When they have to actually write the check and walk in the room. If you don't believe in yourself, and you don't believe in your goal, and you don't believe in your superpower, you're not writing that check. So when you join Genius, you're going to be centered around people who believe in themselves, who get things done, and are collaborators and givers. Because the scam artist is not writing a check for $25,000. The person who's not ready might be a great person. The person who's not ready isn't going to write that check. If they have a lot of self-doubt, they can't write the check, which means you don't have to deal with them as a member until they're ready. Everybody in that room is ready.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to get too far off topic. I'm with that point. I'm wondering how many people, like, there are some people I'm guessing that don't have the $25,000 to write the check, but mentally may be ready. And there's other people that could easily write the check. How do they know the difference? Like, from somebody that can easily just write the check, and maybe they're not the person that you want to be around.
No. So the ability to write the check is not just cash in the bank. If you don't have a good heart and you're not in a good place, you're not going to invest. It's not about can you afford it, it's can you see the value in it. If I don't see the value, somebody came to me the other day, they got a Rolls Royce Phantom, it costs $240. They said, hey, Dre, I give it to you for 180. I'm still not buying it. A car for 180,000 to me is not worth it. I don't care what kind of car it is. Unless I'm going to resell it, I'm in the car business and I'm not, a $180,000 car is not a value to me. It doesn't make sense to me. So but to somebody else, that's a great deal.
Sure.
I would never write a check for 180,000 to buy a car.
If yeah, I get it. If you're into cars and you love cars, then that makes a lot. Like I love cars. Yeah.
Or even the look that the car will give you.
Sure.
I mean, I need something practical, something that's going to fit my personality, fit my spirit. And so it's not just, can you afford it? But if you come there, you're going to see, do you fit in?
True.
As Patriot fans, we don't let everybody in.
Patriots fan?
I'm mad at Mark Wahlberg.
Well, you're from Boston.
Mark left. He left the game. We were playing
Mark Wahlberg?
He left the game. He had a great story, but he left the game. He left the Super Bowl. We were down 28-3.
Yeah. Mark does pretty well for himself. I'm sure.
But he still left the game.
Yeah. What do you mean he left the game?
At the Super Bowl. Mark was, I mean, he
was.
Oh,
yes, that's right. He walked out.
They kept showing him in his booth.
Yeah.
The booth went empty.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot about that. You're absolutely right.
You don't forget.
Yeah, that's funny. Dana White, you know who Dana White is, right? Dana White. Did you see the episode where he wouldn't jump off the cliff on the Ultimate Fighter? No. Everybody jumped. They waited all day for Dana, and then in the end, it's like, I guess he don't really have to jump. He's Dana White.
Yeah, but
he should have jumped, but he didn't.
Everybody
else jumped.
So what happens is, for the people who are wanting to be ingenious, I mean, some things just have certain price tags, and you want to be in the room. If 25,000 is a big number to you, then the deals that are going on, the ability to execute is going to be important. I can go to Harvard Business School tomorrow, and it's not going to do me any good because I can't execute anything they're going to teach me. So I can go sit with Warren Buffett tomorrow, and he can give me, hey, Dre, this is the best thing to invest in. I don't have a cool $5 million to just go put an investment away for 10 years. So Warren Buffett can put $10 million on a stock and walk away and not worry about it for 10 years. I can't do that. So I have to take Warren Buffett's information and say, am I really ready for Warren Buffett information? The answer is no. Yeah. It's no. And sure, I want to be LeBron James. Do I want to work that hard? No. Am I going to put in the hours LeBron puts in? No. So Warren Buffett's information for me is not going to be any use. I don't have the type of finances necessary to set aside to do that type of stuff. Got it.
You also have to have the physical skills and abilities of a LeBron James, not in order to, that would certainly help. So John, let's go back to goals. Cause I know after this, I want to switch gears a bit, but you talked about the goal of being the number one guy in the prison. And back then in your mind, that was the big goal.
That was a big goal.
Let's bring that back now to people listening to this. Like how do you know, like, if maybe your big goal right now is the Wizard of Oz? Like, is there a way to, like, how did you come to, like, wait, hold on a minute, this ain't real?
This is the thing. Well, back then I got lucky, I got blessed, and I had a chance to have an epiphany moment. I had an opportunity a few years ago. I went to a meeting in Kentucky, and the former governor of Kentucky and his secretary and the Office of Public Safety Director was going to give me my own prison. They were going to give me a prison, Kentucky State Reformatory, and let me run it. They said, Dre, we're going to make you the warden of a prison. I was like, yay. Never before in the history of America has a former gang member who spent 14 years in prison been given charge of a whole prison. Never happened. I went to my mentor, Ben Richter. He's out of Houston, love him. I go to Ben's house. He's my mentor, one of them. I say, yo, Ben, I'm going to be the warden of a prison. This is great. 60 Minutes, 2020, Oprah. It's never happened before. Books. I can see the reality TV show. And Ben listened. Then he said, Andre, you can't be the warden. I said, no, Ben, I'm going to be the warden. This is the greatest thing ever. This is the greatest marketing thing ever. He said, no, Dre, you can't be the warden. I said, you don't get it, Ben. And this is my mentor. This man's uber successful, integrity above and beyond anything you never think of, smartest guy you ever want to meet. And I'm telling him no, because I heard something I wanted to hear. And he wasn't agreeing. I wanted validation. I didn't want advice right now. He said, Andre, 95% of what a warden does, you want no part of. Meetings, accountability meetings, rehearse, is 5% of what he does is what you like to do, which is engage people. But 95% of a warden's job is not engagement. It's meetings, and it's accounting meetings, and it's this meetings, and it's that meetings, and it's, you don't want to do that. You take that job as a warden, two things are going to happen. You're going to be miserable because you're going to be in meetings 95% of the time. Then two, you can't scale it because they want you at prison X or prison Y or prison Z, you can't go because you can only play at one prison at a time. He said, so what you're going to do is you're going to create a training for the 5% that you do better than anybody else and that they want. And you're going to offer that up. Then that can go across the country to 20, 30, 40, 50 prisons at the same time. And you're free to move about the world. And he was dead right. And I nodded my head and said, okay, Ben, but I thought I had a winner. Minus Ben, I'd have been the warden and been miserable. But I had people who are smarter than me, more successful than me, reputable, trustworthy, my interests at heart that I listen to. They say, if you don't have somebody that can tell you no, then you have a problem that's waiting to happen. So I went to Ben, gave him he let me be enthusiastic and excited, but then he told me the truth and he broke it down for me to why. And he didn't get offended when I told him he didn't know what he was talking about for a minute. He understood. I was excited. Yeah. He let me walk through my excitement and gave me the facts and the truth and the guidance. And I took heed, and now I'm not a warden, but I have a program that scales across the country.
It's amazing.
So the key thing is, how do you know that you have a great idea? When you go to your mentor or your coach and you tell him your great idea and he validates it, he stamps it, and he tells you why it's a great idea or why it's not. If you're just trusting your own judgment, you're biased.
Awesome, man. Thinking about real estate as an example, I know a lot of agents get, they're good with people. They love the people side, but they get burnt because they're doing their own flyers. They're doing all their transaction processing, taking photos, doing, it's like all the administrative, and you don't realize you spend, you list a property and you spend 10 hours, 15 hours on administrative stuff. And you're doing the $10, $15 an hour work when you should be out working with buyers and sellers.
Fiverr.com, Indeed.com, Monster.com, Craigslist.com. Just don't call your cousin.
Yeah, no doubt.
I heard somebody who does that for years. Oh, up until a month ago. So I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. Up until a month ago, I hired every admin you can think of. My sister, my cousin, my niece, the ladies down at Hall's daughter, the lady from the church. I hired them all, and I was never satisfied, and it was always a problem, and I always ended up letting them go. And about a month ago, I found somebody, and they were like the perfect person. They've been an admin for 12 plus years, and this is what she does. And she does it with like a group of like 180 multimillionaires already for the last 12 years. I said, well, if she can do the 180 millionaires, she can do my stuff. And I hired her. And the difference between her and the other people, it was a drastically increased cost. It was almost double the price per hour, which is fine. But I started paying for results versus time. And the second thing was I had confidence in her, which I never had with the people from before.
Yeah, that's key.
I never had confidence in these people, so I ended up micromanaging them and second guessing them. And every time they made a mistake, it just made me double down and do their work even more, which made it impossible for them. So they never had a chance to win because I didn't have confidence in them. I hired people because they said the right quota, 10, 20, $30 an hour. They had the right resume. It's not about resume. It's not about hourly rates. Can you do this job? Have you done this job? Have you proven you've done this job? And I was just hiring rookies for the most part. I finally said, know something? I'm just going to hire an all-star free agent. And Keith Cunningham, a great guy out of Austin, he says to me, if you had all A-plus players, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Anthony, all A-plus players on your team, how many of your problems go away? If your entire staff was the best of the best, how many of your problems go away? And if you say most of them, then you're your problem because you're in charge of hiring.
Yeah. I'm reading a book now. I just finished it. Who, Not How.
Oh yeah.
Man, that just was a slap in the face to me, man. Tell you, I've had anxiety since picking up that book a week and a half ago. I'm through the whole book now. I'm getting the audio just because I'm starting to see all the stuff I do that I shouldn't be doing.
You have to get The Road
Crazy.
Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham.
Yeah, someone else shared that with me. All right, I'm gonna get that. Let me ask you this. So, earlier I don't remember the exact way you said it, but you said this ain't real. Yet the reality is COVID is real right now. There's a lot of real estate agents that are struggling because inventory is the lowest it's ever been. I mean, I've been doing this 18 years, never seen it this low. And I'm hearing that across the country. So there are some challenges out there right now. So what are you saying to these real estate agents that are dealing with that right now?
Okay, right now, COVID's real, 1,000% real. And the question is COVID real, but can we adjust to what is? There was a time when it was, like, we go back to the car and the horses, when they went from horses to cars. And so we're like, nah, it's never gonna work. So we're in a new time right now. There was a time where we as Black men couldn't move about the country as we do now. There was rules against that. And you had to learn to cope with what was. I mean, you go down the wrong side street, you get hung, you get beat, you get stuff took. It was just that simple, and there was no recourse. So right now, there's no recourse against COVID because it's a mythical, it's a phantom disease that's killing people that you really can't detect. So we have to say, I, as Black men, have been fighting against odds, against staying alive since day one and for generations. Right now, COVID's saying, this is what I am, this is how I move. So it's a matter of how do you have to look at it as an enemy, not a disease, as an enemy, and say, okay, COVID's preventing this. So right now, everything's online. There's 6 billion, everything online is going through the roof.
Yeah, Zoom.
Everything in person is dropped. And if you can't make the transition to online, whatever you do, if it's speaking, if it's training, selling houses, selling groceries, everything is online. And I don't know, I'm sure you remember this was probably like 10 years ago. Somebody told me, if your business isn't here, you don't have a business. Somebody told me that like 10 years ago. If your business can't fit right here, you don't have a business. So if you can't find a way to say, okay, well, the world's changed. It's time. There was a time, there was no internet. There was no email. You did everything in person. It was phone calls. You had rooms and rooms full of people. So if you was a secretary in the 70s, you're out of work now. Because there used to be 10,000 secretaries to an office, now there's 3. So marketing, everything's digital. So the thing is, first and foremost, you have to be stabilized inside of yourself. You have to be healthy, you have to be stabilized, you have to be focused and say, okay, how do I reposition online? You can sell houses online. I'm gonna use a Joe Polish quote. Are there people selling houses in 2020? The answer is yes. Then you can sell houses in 2020. Are people making money on real estate online? The answer is yes. That means you can make money on real estate online. So there are people right now making money in real estate. That means it's not over. When you tell me there's nobody making money with Polaroid cameras, don't get in that business. There's nobody making money in a given space. My space is over. If you want a MySpace page, I'm laughing at you. It's over. So right now, there are people making money in your industry, which tells me your industry is not dead. In Atlanta, I used to do wholesaling at a wholesaling training company. And I remember right around the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the house was a 500, 1,000, 2,000. You can get a house for 2, wholesaler for 20. Get a house for 5, wholesaler for 40. Now, people are like, oh, the market's dead. No, the price just changed. You can get it for 80, and you can wholesale it for 250. The numbers just went up. The fix and flips, the numbers just went up. So the medium has changed. In person no longer works. So how do you create an email list? How do you create an online presence? How do you engage people? Amazon, every supermarket is delivering right to your front door. Yeah. So with Zillow, Redfin, all that stuff's already online. It's been online. So your viewers and your comrades have to say, how do I get into that space?
Yeah. I think part of it right now is figuring out how to get in front of people's eyes before the Zillows and the Redfins and all those people get them in the web.
Well,
Because once they get them in the web,
step one, you have to have an online presence.
yeah, a good one.
One, you have to have an online presence. If I look, I got my microphone right here. I didn't have this a little while ago. I got a microphone right here. I got 1, 2, I got 3 iPads right here. You know what I'm saying? I got a light behind my head. I got this all lit up well. This isn't like this isn't, I'm literally just moving. If you do this again in 2 weeks, I have my background set up, and I got a thing you can do where I can, like, when you look at the camera, where it projects up, I'm looking straight at the camera versus looking down at the screen.
Oh yeah.
Little half-inch thing. So I just moved and I'm setting up this house. I'm setting up my studio. I have to set up a studio now.
Yeah.
There was no studio 2 years ago in my house.
Yeah.
There's a studio in my house right now. And it will be a studio in my house for the foreseeable future. I'm going to convert my garage into a set.
That's what I did. Yeah, absolutely.
So you have to stay ahead. You can't say, oh, well, no problem. If you had an iPhone 6, you got problems.
All right. Let me ask you this, man. Genius Recovery. Tell us about Genius Recovery. I know are you just kind of spearheading that, or you're part of the
Genius Recovery
group?
Is Joe Polish's and Genius Network's outreach to help humanity around addiction. There's a lot of people in this country and a lot of people in this world who suffer from addictions. There's definitely drugs, there's definitely alcohol, there's definitely pornography, there's definitely gambling, there's definitely bad decision making, there's definitely sugar. There's all kinds of addictions, coffee. People are addicted to all kinds of things. The addiction doesn't have to be illegal for it to be an addiction. It just has to be something that you can't control and it has control over you. And we want people to be treated kindly, with respect, with humanity, and helped through and not shamed. So the objective is not to shame anybody, it's to help them come out of it and help them get to a better, safer space. And that's what Genius Recovery is focusing on, bringing about information not geared at charging and gouging you, but making sure you have the right information to help you and your loved ones move on and do better.
Awesome.
And that's what me and Joe connected at. I'm into helping people, he's into helping people, and that's just boom, we hit there, and it was a value add instantly. It was like I giving that space, he giving that space, and we just became boom. So they say, Dre, how did you become so in with Genius Network? I came on Genius Recovery helping people, and it just it poured over.
Well, that's how I connected with you a couple of weeks ago. I wanted, and I said, how do I help, man? So, and I'm, we're going to hopefully talk again really soon so I can figure out how to help you guys. Yeah. Ironically, tonight, today's Wednesday, the 11th, I get my coin for 18 years of sobriety. Thank you. So my actual anniversary is on the 7th, but tonight's one of my home groups, which one of the only meetings going on because of COVID right now. So I'm going to be getting my coin tonight. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Congratulations.
Thank you, man.
It's a daily grind. It's a daily, listen, you're looking fabulous.
One day at a time, boss. That's it. You just keep showing up. One day at a time. All right. What can we do to help you? Everybody listening to this, what can we do to help you, man? Bring some value to you. You just brought some value to us.
What can they do to help me? Well, I would love to just connect with people. I'm saying they can order the book, The Academy of Hope, did you get a copy of my book?
I haven't. No, I didn't. So let me.
I have a book. That's
Academy of Hope. All right. Thank you. I will get that.
Amazon and put in my name. I only got one book.
Okay. Me too.
Yeah. And if there's something I'm like looking for copywriters and digital, I need a digital marketer. That's what I'm looking for. Digital marketing, all that whole space. So, I mean, you always need, Richard Branson. We sat with Richard back in 2009, and somebody asked him the question, what do you do when you're not running your 400 companies? He says, I look for good people to hire because I don't run any of my companies. So I'm always looking for good people to hire or to partner with where we can move this thing forward. So if there's great writers, if there's great architects, if there's great therapists, if there's great digital marketers, listen, I'm trying to just collaborate with great people. So if there's a skill that you have that you think we can partner on, if you're a public relations person, if you're a writer, if you're a curriculum developer, it doesn't matter. I just want to partner with you. Hey, if you need help, what can you do to help me? Let me help you. So, hey, Dre, my company, we're dealing with Black Lives Matter. We don't know how we support this. Do we go with Black Lives Matter? What about the protesting? What about what's good, what's enough, what's not enough? If you just need information on Black Lives Matter, hey, I'll help you with that. If you need help with you just thinking through, hey, how do I think through this next iteration of my life or my company? We went to State Farm probably like 7 years ago. And they said to my friend who has a company, they said, 25, 30 years from now, we'll be out of business because our entire business model is brick and mortar with agents. The entire world is going here. So 25 years, we'll have no clients. They said, tell us our next product. And we sat in a room for 5 days and we came up with their next logical products. That's not brick and mortar and it's not an agent.
Yeah.
If your business is brick and mortar and an agent, you will be out of business at some point.
Yeah.
So we do strategic planning.
Awesome. All right, man. Awesome. Well, I just want to say I appreciate your time. And there's one final question, and it's really just kind of putting all this together today. People listening to this, what's if there's only one thing they walk away with from today, what do you want them to walk away with?
I can go from the basement of a prison and a dysfunctional family to working at the White House, working at Harvard Law School, London Business School, helping people around the world, white, Black, and Spanish, and just have a phenomenal life right now. And I've done this a lot with very minimum help, with extremely, extremely tough start. What can you do? When I was in prison, I couldn't pick up the phone and text somebody. I couldn't pick up a Zoom and jump on with somebody. You have so much help available to you that you don't have to struggle and suffer alone. You don't have to go through it alone. And there are people out here that love you. And just ask for help. If it's not me, if it's not Dave, ask somebody for help. And if that person can't help you, there's another person to help you. Don't give up. Like when we started our businesses, we didn't take no for an answer around business. Don't take no for an answer around personal safety and personal solitude. We want to see you thrive. I want to see you just do phenomenal. I want to see your kids do phenomenal. That we say we do this for our kids. We say we do this for the world. Well, let's keep self-care is not selfish, is my final say.
Awesome, man. Thank you. Just want to say thank you. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.